Welcome to Common Sense Investing. My name is Cameron, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing the Vice President of Strategy and Planning for NTG Clarity Networks, Adam Zaghloul. In this interview, we are going to talk a little bit about who the company is, what they do, their products, their services, but mostly I am looking forward to discussing what has changed with this company to drive their growth and how they plan on sustaining this momentum, the risks, the rewards, and hopefully for viewers, a great introduction to this company and this stock. Now, do not forget, I am not a financial advisor. I am not your financial advisor. I don't give buy, sell, or hold alerts. I am just one average retail investor who likes talking stocks. And on behalf of the company, as this is an interview, please remember that forward-looking statements are not fact, but the belief and opinion of management and have inherent risk. With that said, thank you, Adam, for joining me today to tell us about NTG Clarity Networks.
My pleasure. Thanks, Cameron. Pleasure to be here.
So I think this is a great opportunity to introduce the company, NTG Clarity Networks, help people understand who you are, what you do, and what the opportunity is here that has investors so excited. After being a relatively quiet stock for many years, recently you announced significant growth. Your stock is up over 100% in 2024. And I think you may have some new shareholders who haven't even finished researching you yet. So I think my first question here, if you don't mind, Adam, is understanding the company. Tell us about NTG Clarity Networks, the company, not the stock. What do you do? How do you make money? Where do you do it? Anything you want to tell us about the company?
Absolutely. Well, NTG Clarity is in the business of enterprise digital transformation. And what that means is we help businesses integrate software and technology into basically every aspect of the business. So that could be building out software to help customers manage their accounts online, building out software to help IT support and technical support organizations streamline, automate the support questions that come into them, and even leveraging a little bit of AI to do financial models and make some business decisions. So we're in the business of software development, and we break that out into two major lines of business. The first one is outsourced software development services, which is about 90% of our business at this time. And what that is basically enterprises and businesses will know they have a software project they want to work on, know they want to develop some software, but they need the expertise and the manpower in order to be able to do it. So what NTG will do is we'll contract out our employees. It could be one single developer all the way up to an entire department to work on the software projects, to design, build, and maintain this digital architecture, basically. And that's the first part of our business. The second part is proprietary software products. So NTG Apps is our flagship software product. It has off-the-shelf, but still fully customizable solutions for a whole range of applications, anything from, an end-to-end, full-scale enterprise resource planning and management software, all the way down to more niche individual tools for telecommunications engineering and IT departments. So we're in the business of software development. We've been in business for more than 30 years now, and most of that business at this time comes from the Middle East, specifically Saudi Arabia.
What's changed? I mean, we understand what you do now. Talk to us about the opportunity. NTG Clarity Networks, your share price has been going up since you announced that $50 million expected in 2024. All of a sudden, you're getting massive growth that was unrecognized at the start of 2023. You're getting expected large growth in 2024. What's different now that we know that what you do, what's changed in what you do that all of a sudden is driving the growth in this company and driving the share price up?
Yeah. So to look at the change, I think I'd start with the digital transformation market as a whole. So digital transformation as a market has been seeing a lot of growth just worldwide. I think over the next 10 years, it's projected to be growing at 20% per year. And that is in large part due to the pandemic we saw in 2020. A lot of businesses are realizing that, being digital, being online, having software powering your business is a really big deal. It's something like 3/4 of surveyed businesses see it as a top priority right now. But what the pandemic also did was probably open people's minds more to the idea of remote and offshore work. So that's a big part of our business too, is yes, we do on-site software development at our customer sites, but also offshore. And since we opened our Egypt offshore center back in 2021, offshoring has grown to be 12% of our business. So that's a big factor in it too. But specifically, if you look at the market that we serve, Saudi Arabia, that market itself has been basically growing at a huge, fast rate for quite a while now. Traditionally, the economy in Saudi Arabia has followed the oil and gas cycle, but they have a new economic development plan. It's called Vision 2030, and they're basically planning to diversify the economy. So there have been huge investments into making Saudi Arabia a financial hub for the region. But also, I'm sure you've seen online and elsewhere, the huge infrastructure projects they're funding, a lot of investment into sports and tourism, and entertainment, all that kind of thing. So a really strong push to diversify the economy. And I think that point on Saudi Arabia wanting to be a financial hub for the region is really important as well, because another thing NTG's been working on for the last few years is diversifying the sectors that we do work for. So traditionally, we've been pretty strictly an IT and telecom focused company. But starting in 2020, we onboarded our first customer in the financial services sector. And as of year end in 2023, the financial sector has accounted for 70% of our business. So we're taking good advantage of the growth, especially in the financial sector in Saudi Arabia as well. So that's sort of where the market is right now. I would say, to touch on your point about the stock not really moving much in the last 5 or 10 years, I would say there's a new management focus on trying to get NTG's story out. Like there's new management, myself and a few others, who have really taken it upon ourselves to get out there and talk about all the great things that we're doing and all the growth that we're seeing. So I think that's showing results. A lot of people online are talking about us now on YouTube and on social media and all the message boards. So I think a renewed focus on telling the story is really important as well.
Yeah, that definitely helps. So obviously, I'm a media channel, so I put a little bit more emphasis on it. But one of the major things I look for is companies that communicate with shareholders, right? It's not marketing. It's great to get your story out, but honestly, it's really hard to make an investment decision unless you have the information. And if a company isn't talking, you can't get that information. So exactly. I definitely applaud you. Like when I first started researching NTG Clarity Networks, the only video anywhere that I could find was 7 years ago, right? Yeah. And then you finally popped up in an interview. I remember it had something like 5 views in 5 days. And I was like, this is perfect. This is my kind of stock, right? So right on. Yeah, great making some change and getting that communication out there. So, I mean, into communication a little bit from NTG Clarity is that as much as interviews, we'd like to sit here and talk about all the fantastic things. And that's great. You do that in press releases and, hopefully in the MD&A. But a lot of investors tend to have questions about risks. Like all of my videos, basically, I try to introduce a stock and then I try to list out the rewards, the potential rewards. I think we know what the rewards are now for NTG Clarity. You've done a great job of telling us that. The growth, the changes that are occurring, your share price potentially being significantly undervalued. We kind of understand the rewards here. But what are the risks? And I typically ask that, of course, because what we've seen recently is that, people picked apart your 2023 earnings. They saw your margins decline there into Q4, and all of a sudden your share price dropped. And then the next day, great communication from the company, right? You released a press release explaining why the margins were down, where you expect them to be in the future, and your share price climbed back up. So if we're looking at that for risk, what are the risks here? If you want to start with margins, what kind of keeps you up at night?
Yeah. Okay. So I can touch upon the margins a little bit. So, when we originally put out our 2023 financials, as you pointed out, the margins were a little bit lower than I think investors were expecting. We were at about 33% gross margin in 2023 compared to about 38% in 2022. And in hindsight, we probably could have done a little bit more to explain it in the MD&A, but thankfully we were able to catch it relatively early and put out a statement. But when it comes to margins, there are a couple of things that we saw with all of our growth in 2023 that had a little bit of an impact. You could probably break it down into 3 aspects. The first one is basically project timing. We do a lot of different types of software work. If we're going to be billing for software product licenses or fixed cost software projects, those tend to have higher margins. And in Q4, we didn't really see a lot of billing for those types of work. So that hit our margin. Another one is promotions and discounts, customer acquisition type strategies. So in order to grow our work really fast, grow our business really fast, we gave, free trial periods and discounts on some of the work that we've been doing. So that hit a little bit of our margin as well. But the silver lining in there is that they're all time bound, and many of them have since elapsed those discounts and trial periods, and customers are staying on with us, paying regular prices, which is good to see. The third aspect that we were talking about is consulting and contractor fees. So a lot of investors picked up in our 2023 financials that the cost of sales breakdown now contained a contractor line or a consulting line. And that's because in order to fill a lot of the positions that have gone into the business that's been growing over the last year or so, we have had to rely on some temporary and higher cost contractors to fill those positions. Now, the good thing about that is most of those positions have transitioned to full-time NTG employees. So they're going to be, going at more regular rates. So a couple of things sort of all came together in Q4 to make our margin a little bit lower than we would have expected or would have wanted. But at the end of the day, we don't really want those to be, long-term aspects of our business. So we're looking forward to tightening up those margins. And the good thing is that Q1's coming out in the next couple of weeks, and we're hoping to showcase that we're still on track to meet our $50 million guidance for revenue in 2024 at that 10% bottom line.
That's fantastic, and congratulations to the people that got hired on. I mean, basically what I heard and what I've been telling people sometimes is that growth costs money, right? You're planning to double your revenue in 2024. That cost in 2023, especially towards as you got closer to the end of the year, you have to spend money to make money. So, as I tried explaining to people, but I do like the detailed, background on that. That makes a lot of sense. Egypt, the Cairo, you have a new office in Cairo. There's been some concerns or questions anyway about the devaluation of the Egyptian pound. I think compared to a Canadian dollar right now, it's worth about 3 cents. How much does that truly affect your business? I've heard everything from a lot to a little to nothing, like straight from you. What does that matter to NTG Clarity?
Right. So I think to start, the devaluation of the Egyptian pound has had a huge impact on, a negative impact on the Egyptian economy and the people who are living there. It's definitely not a good situation. And in the past, it has heavily impacted NTG's earnings for sure, especially when a lot more of our business was coming out of Egypt. But in a response to the devaluation that's been going on, starting in 2023, management basically made the decision to scale back and cease sales operations in Egypt, just because the currency that we'd be collecting is being devalued so rapidly. So effectively what that does is turn Egypt into a delivery center for our offshore services and our software development arm. So we'd be paying our expenses in a currency that's being devalued while collecting our revenue in stronger currencies, namely the Saudi Riyal, which is pegged to the US dollar. So by doing that, we get to keep our Egyptian operation open, which is great. Like we're providing the economic opportunities there, keeping it the same and growing it, while at the same time making the best of the bad currency devaluation situation. And we're seeing results with that strategy, I'd say. In 2022, it was about 24% of our revenue that came from Egypt, and that went down to 9% in 2023. And then if you take a look at the exchange gain on translations from foreign operations, that's a mouthful, but that's that second line up from the bottom line on our income statement. In 2022, that was a $400,000 loss. And going into 2023, that was a $600,000 gain. Now, when you're talking foreign exchange, there's always an uncontrollable macro aspect to it. But at the same time, I'd like to say that that's in no small part due to this new strategy. We're making gains on foreign exchange as opposed to losses now.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for clearing that up. All tied together, right? And you got Q1 coming up, so I don't think we should get too detailed. But your plan, and it's all kind of connected, cash, debt, and share dilution. What are your thoughts moving forward on that? I know you're a little bit low on money, but you're also becoming cash positive. What is the focus here for this year?
Okay, definitely. So we've been profitable for probably about 3 years now, and that's something that we're really proud of. Is we've got 30 years of experience. We're a profitable company. When it comes to using that profit, we've got two main focuses for the year. We want to continue our growth trajectory because there's a lot of growth to be had in our existing markets. So we want to put cash towards recruiting, onboarding, equipping resources to fill our positions that we have contracts for. We want to put more business development personnel on the ground. We want to do investments in operations growth and scaling to meet the demand that the market's showing us. And at the same time, we want to keep an eye towards maintaining that profitability. So we're shooting in 2024 to keep our 10% margin. We're looking for initiatives and opportunities to increase the bottom line anywhere we can and make sure that we continue to be profitable. So those are the two main focuses for 2024. You mentioned share dilution. I'd probably say, at this time, so share dilution necessitates, fundraising and potentially diluting existing shareholders. And there are no discussions really that are going on in that wheelhouse right now. Even with the growth that we've been seeing and the performance of the stock recently, I'd probably say we're still relatively undervalued. And in order to have any sort of those discussions, we'd need to see, a pretty significant re-rate in the stock. Yeah.
That's fair and good to hear. I think that's what a lot of your shareholders are hoping to hear at this point, right? When we look at your potential through 2024, share dilution is necessary sometimes at the right price. So that's interesting, and we'll have to take that into account. Putting you on the spot a bit, those were the concerns or questions that I collected about risks from your shareholders, at least on my channel. Did I miss anything? Is there anything we should be looking at in 2024, either as a potential risk or potential reward that isn't on the table yet?
I would say the one thing that investors probably don't fully grasp when they're looking at our company is the degree to which the market in the Middle East and the market specifically in Saudi Arabia is expanding. Like, there's just a tremendous amount of growth that's going on right now over there. When you're over there, you can feel there's a different energy than compared to 5 or 10 years ago. It's like a hunger and a growth that's going on. And there's a tremendous amount of investment going on to diversify the economy and make it more than just an oil and gas town. So I would say watch out for the Middle East economy and the Saudi economy especially. And we're in a good position with 30 years of history to be at the front of the line to get in on the action with all that growth.
That's fascinating. I'd love to have a conversation about that behind the scenes or in another interview, because I think when most people look at the Middle East right now, and historically, we tend to put on a little devaluation to it. Well, exactly, yeah. Company should be worth $1, but I'll be willing to pay 90 cents because geopolitical risk. And what I'm hearing from you is that probably right now should be in the other direction due to their growth, is that there's more geopolitical reward moving forward than risk.
I would say definitely, yeah. There's a lot of focus on making sure that the outside world sees the Middle East and Saudi Arabia as a stable, consistent place to invest money, and basically wanting to attract business and make the economy more diverse. Exactly.
So, personally, I think the greatest risk right now for NTG Clarity Networks, at least for the stock and not for the company, it's got nothing to do with the company, is that you have a lot of new shareholders, right? All this good news, growth has created a lot of interest in NTG Clarity. Share price is up, like I said, and I think some people really can't decide what to do yet. They're new here. They're still completing their research, right? So I see the stock being volatile, but I see the company being very stable. And I think it's great that you came on this interview today, Adam, and kind of got your story out. I think that will help a lot as people, sometimes you buy first and you research second. And I think this provided a lot of great information. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Anything that you missed? I don't want this interview to go too long because you've got Q1s coming out, and maybe we can have another interview in the future being a little bit more specific on the numbers. But as far as the story, who you are as a company, the rewards and risks, is there anything that we didn't talk about today yet that you'd like to?
Yeah, I think we covered most of the aspects of the company fairly well. I think all that I'd say touch on your point about a little bit of volatility. At NTG specifically, like we try not to sweat the short-term volatility in the stock because we know at the end of the day, we're a 30-year-old company. We've been profitable for many years into the past. We're in it for the long haul, and we don't expect to be going anywhere anytime soon. So a little bit of short-term volatility doesn't really bother us very much. So we're just looking forward to keeping on our growth trajectory and coming out with those Q1 numbers that hopefully, resonate and make real the projections that we've been putting out, that $50 million for 2024 in top line revenue.
Yeah, that will help. Proving out that 2024, a big part of what I talk about with smaller companies, it's tough to, build trust. I think a lot of people over-trust, especially a lot of new investors during COVID that just are learning to invest. It's hard when you hear a lot of promises and there's a lot of companies out there that don't deliver. So I generally suggest that, you look for companies that set goals and achieve goals. And that's how you build trust over time. And that's one thing I could say about NTG Clarity. You set some significant goals in 2023. Before that, I'm not sure. You introduced to my channel in 2023, but you set goals in 2023, you achieve goals in 2024. Now you have even higher in 2023. Now you have even higher goals in 2024. So there's a really big story unfolding here in 2024 as you achieve those lofty goals, and I can't wait to see it. Thanks for your time, Adam. We'll see you again soon.